Are you getting in the way, unintentionally of course, of your team being more open and flexible and innovative? I was working with a leadership group a few years ago, and this was about 20 senior leaders. I was running my Future Scenarios program with them, and they wanted the full 2-day version of that, and they were there for the whole 2 days. Except for the CEO. The CEO couldn't come for the whole 2 days. He was there kind of towards the start of day 1 and partway through day 2. And it was interesting for me to observe the dynamics of the group when he was in the room and when he wasn't. And some of you may already know where I'm going with this. So I noticed that when he was in the room, he was really open. He took part in the activities. He was as enthusiastic as everybody else. He didn't talk over anybody or kind of try to push his opinion forcefully. But I noticed that the other people in the room change their behavior when he was in the room. So if he said something at the start of a discussion, then other people wouldn't necessarily parrot it or wouldn't necessarily support it, but they'd make sure that anything that they said wouldn't conflict with what he said or contradict what he said. And it's not even what he said. They would make sure that they wouldn't say things that might be against organizational policy or against anything that has been brought down, imposed from on high. Even though I said at the start of the session, I said, think big, because it's easier to think big now and then walk it back when other constraints get in the way. It's easier to do it that way than the other way around. But what they were doing was when the CEO was there, they were kind of walking it back. They were making sure that they didn't go too far outside what he would consider acceptable, even though they had permission to do that. It's like little ducklings who stay close to their mother soon after they're born because they don't want to stray too far because they might get lost. So they kind of follow along. And this is not the CEO's fault, not specifically. It was actually the fault of the title CEO, because he was there because of his status. Other people modified and tempered their behavior, what they said, what they did, what they were willing to say, and what they were not willing to say, just because there was somebody of that high status in the room. So I call this a Jeff said game. It's not something I came up with. Jeffrey Pruitt, he's a CEO of an American company, he came up with this because he said whenever he was in meetings, he found that people would kind of temper their conversations and their decisions. And also when they left the meeting, if they were to do something and somebody challenged them on it and said, why are you doing this? Instead of trying to explain the real reason, they say, well, Jeff said this. Jeff said this is a good idea. And Jeff said we should do this. Jeff said we shouldn't do this. And so they kind of abdicated their responsibility and they abdicated their decision making to the CEO. Even though he may not have exactly said that, but they used that as a crutch so that they didn't have to take responsibility for those decisions. And he realized the only way he could solve that is to not be in the meetings. Okay, so his action, his goal was to empower and build the judgment in his team so that they could make their decisions themselves, make good, well-informed decisions based on well-evidenced conversations and maybe even fierce conversations, but with him out of the room. And they would make the decision. He would still have to take accountability and responsibility for it, so that people weren't playing the Jeff said game. And I wonder whether that's true for you and your team as well. You may not even realize that people are playing the Jeff said game or the Marion said game, but they might be. They might be without you even realizing it. So what can you do to build the capabilities and the good judgment of your team members so they can make decisions the right way without your influence, but with you still being there to take responsibility for them and accountability for them? It's a simple thing to do, right? Step out of more meetings. You get more free time to yourself, and who doesn't want a little bit of time that you're not spending in meetings? But also, you have to take the accountability and responsibility for it. So it's simple, but not easy. It's one of the things that you can do to really build this culture of change agents. If you'd like to know more about this, I'm running a free public online presentation soon. I'm calling it Keep the Change. It's for leaders and managers everywhere and at every level of the organization. So register and please feel free to share it with others in your team and your network as well. I'm sure you'll get value from it. I'll see you in the future.